Thank you. Once again, my name is Oyebanji, Akins, so you can call me DJ Fresh, and we're live on CTD Among Blacks. And on this lovely day, I have a wonderful sister with me. She's been, since I've known her, she's been that kind of a pillar that I've opened my eyes to some discussion that I never thought about for Nigerians in America, precisely anyway. And that's one of the reasons why I've been privileged to have her to come on our podcast channel today to share our experience and to open our eyes to some things a lot of people don't know that affect our life. So, without wasting our time before we go deep into that discussion of today, I would like to introduce Bukola to us today on our podcast. And I want us to say one or two things to our audience.
Wow, thank you so much. This is a huge privilege to be here. And as you were saying, I inspired you. I must tell you, you did inspire me much more. And this is, for me, a privilege, a great privilege. And I'm looking forward to having a fantastic discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. I think what I will say is on that what you said is it's a good thing when people can cross path and they can be able to invest one or two things in their different lives. So you've really changed some things in my life when we talked, and I'm so grateful for that. So the topic we're going to be discussing today under cultural shock is going to be relationship and parenting. And without not going, I don't want to waste. I want to go straight to the questions.
Okay.
I want you to just, tell me what you know when it comes to relationship, being an American and we're Nigerians.
I think the first thing I'm going to say is life is all about relationships. Whether we are in Africa or we're in North America or in Asia or Europe, life is all about relationships, and life keep happening. Life will keep happening to you wherever you are situated per time. So being Nigerians here in America, it has further opened my eyes to some things that we took for granted back home. The cultural shock, like, hey, as in Ibulajasi, this is where we are, and we are going to have to live here. We're going to have to survive here. I mean, it's amazing.
I want to add to when you said relationship, being here. Can you expatiate when you said a relationship is in all basic everything we're doing? How has it been for you dealing with people in America, especially Nigerians that live in America? How has the relationship dealing with people for you? Is this something that been very easy, like you said, basically on having a cultural shock? Is this something a lot of Nigerians have tapped in being a Nigerian or even trying to relate with Western people down here?
Yeah, I found out that at times it's easier to relate with Western people here than it is to relate with our own Niger people.
Are you?
I am telling you, when you come visiting, okay, you came for 1, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and all of that. They could be very accommodating. They will, go out of their way to do stuff for you and all of that. But if you come in here to come and be living here, it's a different ballgame. I mean, everybody is busy. Everybody is legitimately busy. And then you'd be like, but I thought you said, I'm sorry. Welcome to reality. So it's a different ball game. And our people, because we are not used to this kind of thing back home. For example, if you have a child, your mom is more than willing, your mother-in-law is more than willing to watch over the child. You could even travel, leave the child for 1 week, 2 weeks. But here, where would you leave the child now? Everybody has to pay bills. So everybody is there's so much pressure coming from every angle. And when you're new in the city or, in the US, you don't really understand it yet until it begins to hit. When you come now, you bring some naira, substantial amount that even changing into dollars, you still have some.
And I don't know what to do with it. Thank God I haven't changed the dollar naira note because I thought I would have lost some of my money, but I still have it with me. It's a small money if you're watching. It's not something for you to come to my house.
When did that come in? They've changed the naira note. What are you saying?
Well, I still have the. Oh yeah, that's true.
But I meant for those who had naira in their account back home.
Oh yeah.
They still change money now.
Yes.
But after some months, in Nigeria will pay your rent for 1 year.
Yes.
And then you can relax and do some other stuff here. Every month, you're like, what's happening? You've paid, and before you know it's another 4 weeks, and you're like, what's happening? So.
And you're right about it, because that's one thing I think a lot of people that have come down here have discussed about on this channel, saying a lot of Nigerians back home doesn't understand bills are paid every month, and
Every month.
psychologically, I think that's something that a lot of Nigerians are not used to.
Not prepared for it.
And because we're not raised and born here, we don't know how to manage their finances so well. And I think that's really been a stressful thing for a lot of Nigerians living in America. Because you see a lot of people making enough money, but they don't seem to have savings to do anything. But going back to the question I asked you earlier on about the relationship, I want to ask you what do you think, because I want to go in a little bit into the parenting thing.
Okay.
What do you think Africans can do? What is the advice you think they can do in managing their relationship with their families, home, and their kids, and being able to be functional in their kids' life? What are the things you've been able to know or that you'd like to share with us?
Okay. Let me try. I'm going to try to cut it short, because
right.
it's a very lengthy one.
Well, we still have the time. My manager is giving me go ahead to ask every question. So
okay.
You're free.
All right. Thank you so much. One, I always say this to people: if you must migrate from Nigeria to anywhere, please move with your family. If you have a family, if you are a man and you are married and you have a kid, move with your family, at least.
I would like to get to ask you more questions on that part of move with your family, but I'm listening. I would like to get the full story of that.
Okay, or at least ensure that you have all the visas ready, so that if you have to go ahead, you go ahead for a few months, put some things in place, and then have them come join you. Because I've seen too many homes that have been broken.
Due to the sense of...
And because the guy or the lady, whoever comes in first, gets in here and he or she is just overwhelmed. I know we have different thresholds. People react differently to stuff. Some people are overwhelmed and then they cannot even think. As in, they're just like, they just freeze. And some, when they are overwhelmed, what they begin to do is they just begin to be anxious. Some begins to be very rude. We have different ways of reacting, and those people who are back home, they don't even know what's happening. And the more you try to explain, and I want to say this to our people in Nigeria, when you tell them that go easy, or what is not easy in America.
How can we help people back home though to let them understand that when people say it's not easy back in abroad, that people can understand? Because I think that has been a very big one. A lot of Nigerians back home doesn't believe people living here, like when they say it's not easy, and if you give anybody 5,000, they expect like you're giving 500,000.
Yeah, they will even help you to do the calculation. How much is that in dollars?
And I don't know what we can do to make people understand. And I get into conversation with other people, they will tell me like, let me still confess. I said,
In fact, that's what I was going to say. The first thing you could do, the first way you could help people to understand is for them to taste it.
Well, that's not possible because the country is not going to allow every Nigerian to come to the United States. So I think the more we're doing things like this, it might bring a lot of awareness. Because there's this saying we say back in Nigeria, they said, government for the people, by the people, for the people. So I think we can be an advocate for people back home. And the more we keep discussing it, hopefully family and friends can pick from it and realize that this is true. Because in my own experience, I just want to share this real quick. Like, I've had people that have come here with their family. That's why I kind of react when you say that.
Okay.
And the story I got from that is I had a friend like that it was a banker back home. And, when they moved down here, things wasn't easy. And what he was doing being a banker back home was to take care of the home. The wife wasn't really doing nothing. And they were fine. So when they moved down here, the wife still expect the same treatment that she was getting from the man. And this man doesn't even have a sustainable job to even take care of them. So the man goes through a lot of stress having that to imagine and say, like, my wife doesn't understand that what we're making down here is not the same thing we're making back home. And they want to be here because of the kids and everything like that. But understanding how to manage their finances from a home where you only pay, they have their own house, and now they got to pay rent every month. They have to feed the kids. And, we went deep by telling me, like, in America, you can't even leave your kids in the house. In Nigeria, you can leave your kids in the house and go to anywhere. But here, somebody has to take care of the kids. And it becomes another responsibility for them to sit down to discuss about, like, okay, you're going to be to get a job in the morning, I get it one in the nights. I don't know. I think it's something that is really affecting a lot of Nigerians back in. So for me, I always tell people, like, before you want to come down with your family, think about it too. Because if you come with your family, most of the time people get broken. this is just personal views that I've got from friends around me when they share their experience about what they go through. And at the end of everything, what we always end it is, what is the way forward? So my question is, for you saying that people can bring family down here, and based on my experience that somebody shared with me that I told you, what do you think Nigerian can do, or what do you think we need to know before coming down? What are the ways you think we can manage this involving the relationship part you're talking about?
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Marriage is not for babies.
Everybody knows that, but that's some people they feel like, what do you mean by marriage is not for babies? For everybody, the marriage is not for babies, but I'm listening to you. Let me allow you to.
All right. We have too many people in marriage, in the marriage institution, who they just think it's like the fairy tale. We watch the movies and all of those things. There's more to it. For example, the example you gave, I would expect the lady to wake up and smell the coffee. Many of us, before we came in here, we had drivers, we had chefs, we had cleaners at home, and all of those. And then you get here and you're like, you have to do it yourself. As in, DIY is real. You will be carrying some stuff and be like, me, what's happening?
You will cry sometimes.
Some
stuff like,
I was in Maryland sometime, and it was cold, as in that you will leave the store and you'll be running to your vehicle. And I was like, and I was carrying some stuff. Who will help you to carry it? I was like, wow, this is eye-opening. So as it has to do with relationships, why I say that it's good for especially married couples to arrange to come together is this. 1, 2 good heads are better than 1. Mm-hmm. If the man is only here and he's working night and day and all that and sending money back home, well, for a while, that might work. But before you know it, the man gets tired. He's worn out. He's alone. And just feels like, I'm just doing everything. I don't even have a life. But if he had his family with him, even if he's doing so much, at least he has succor, seeing his wife, seeing his kids and all of that. And for the women, I'm a woman. And so when I say this, I think I have every right in the book to say it, that women need to be supportive. Women need to be supportive. You don't expect the man to do everything.
What do you mean by women need to be supportive?
Yes.
You mean in terms of the mental state of how for them to see things going to their home? Or you mean in terms of helping them with the finances? Or you mean in terms of paying them all together in one pack?
All together. Whatever needs to be done. Because for some people, for some men now, cooking is a big deal. So they need their woman to help them with the feeding. Some men, that's not a problem. Cook. I will even cook for you. All I want you to do is take care of the kids. Or somebody is saying, oh, I know you can do this thing. I saw an opening. Can you just do it? Go in there, do 6 hours a day for that, there, and let's add this thing together. I mean, it's a family. I know that many ladies are always like, oh, my money is my money. His money is our money. And I'm like, oh.
That works in Nigeria, but not in America.
Not in America, even in Nigeria.
I think I would say it works. And the only reason why I would say it works is if their finances is fine. If their finances is not fine, I don't think it's a reasonable discussion for somebody to think my money is my money. But, over the past of relationship that people have been seeing, now people are scared to always want to share money with money because you might be sharing money with one man. I mean, man, and the thing is, the man is sharing. That's another topic entirely.
Yeah,
you understand? So we have to consider all those parts too. But for the people like you said, because I'm going by the fact of saying family that are coming to America, I think you're right about if both parents or both partners can sit down and be able to visualize like this is a new place. And I think that's one thing a lot of Nigerians haven't been able to come to understand about themselves. Because a lot of people move down here, but they're still in Nigerian way of life. And I think that have been a big role affecting a lot of homes because the woman still expect the same thing the man is doing from home.
He can't even
to be doing it. And the same thing go with the men too, because men still expect their wife to do the exact same they are doing back home.
It's not possible.
In America. And I think those are the small things when it comes to cultural shock.
Right.
People don't tend to sit down to realize that, okay, we have to really working hand in hand to make things happen. And I think those are the things I would say, if each home can work on that, hopefully I believe there will be a little bit of change.
Yes.
And my next question is, when you talk about parenting, because we're talking about relationship and parenting, what are your advice? How do you think parents can help to, what are your view in managing your work and having time for your kids? in America?
Yeah, this is I'll take this very personally because I have an experience in that. Back in Nigeria, some years back, I had a job with the World Bank, and then I got pregnant, gave birth to my children, a set of twins. So,
Oh, wow.
then I resumed work, and then I had to leave them at the creche. I mean, I left them there, but my heart was always there. And then when it's 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, I want to leave. My boss is like, I was a finance officer. At times you have a lot of things to clear in the evening. I'm like, oh God, I gotta go, and all that. Eventually, I had to leave that job to focus on the children.
That's big.
Yeah. So people are like, are you sure you're okay? And she was all right, But, and I'm not saying everybody should do this. In Nigeria, it was easier for me to do that. And then, of course, I started my business, and then, the man was there, and, we were working things together. But if you're here in the US, I know it's a different ball game. But I want us to prioritize, especially as parents. It's not enough that you gave birth to a child. And almost everybody can give birth to a child one way or the other. But the parenting, the job is nurturing those children. And I've seen people, Nigerians here, were like, Omo America ni, Omo America. I'm like, no, this isn't about Omo America. America did not give birth to this child. You did. Even if you give birth to the child in America, that child is still your child, and you're responsible for how that child turns out at the end. So when we prioritize it, we're going to have to.
How do you think it's possible to prioritize kids with? I'm talking on behalf of, should I say, because we both know in America that it's really, really hard to manage your kids with your job. So let's look at it from the perspective of, because I'm talking about parenting now.
Right.
What advice can you give people that just single parent?
If it's a single parent, that's a different ballgame, because the two of them can always alternate. But a single parent, I think you want to look for a support system. There is nothing anyone is going through, and I don't mean to in any way, downplay what people are going through, but there's nothing that anyone is going through that is insurmountable. It might be difficult to do, but it can be done. There are always ways to get things done. If I'm going through it and it's so tough, I can't possibly be the only one going through it. So if you look for a support system, if you can't find anyone around you, you start one. I tell you, before you know it, you will begin to attract people who are in the same position as you are. Yes, Nigerians are this, they're that, and in diaspora, it's very unfortunate how that everyone for himself, God for us all, and all of that. But I still believe that there are a few people around wherever you are who can be a support system. You cannot afford to just be alone. In fact, nobody survives alone here. So if you can't find a support group that you can attach yourself to, what you can do is start a support group. Because you have to work, yes, you have to pay the bills, but then you're not going to neglect your child because you are doing that. So you have to do the two. So my strongest advice would be a support system.
For you listening to us wherever you might be listening, and for you watching, I hope today's episode has been one that been, trigger some information that you don't know, and for the one that you think you know, I hope it has been able to give you some kind of more insight about it. And like we always said on our channel, we're not giving you a fact or solution that we believe is going on. We're just giving our opinion based on what we have in our own personal life. And if you can see anything that suits your own life that you could pick from it, that's a privilege coming from us. So for you listening, you can follow us on our Instagram is CTD Among Blacks, and on all audio channel you can check us at CTD Among Blacks, CTD Among Blacks, and our website is www.ctdamongbblacks.com. Moving forward, I will want to elaborate a little bit on that. I was privileged to have somebody that was sharing information with me, and it goes like this. She said, my sister was complaining about his three kids. And I said, what do you mean? She said, one of our kid went to report in school, like our mom is really, really trying to stress out. And said the lady was crying, like, I didn't even do nothing to my kids. And the question I kind of asked the person was like, are they Nigerian? And she said, yes, their mom is Nigerian, but the kids are born here. And they said that the woman gave them the same routine of things they are doing in the house. But fortunately for that particular kid, I don't know, maybe it's he or she, embraced the Western world. The mom was trying to make them, be more traditional living in America. And my question, which I told them, is I said, you might teach all your kids to be traditional Nigerian, doesn't mean every one of them is going to go through that way of life. So for every parent should have this in mind of thinking, which of my children that might decided to go like this, is it I got to allow him understand his world, or try to see maybe I can, pave him back into my traditional way of life. But to me, my question from all the story I just shared is, what do you think parents can do when their kids decided to want to embrace the Western country if they are born here?
Well, I think the first thing I'm going to have to say is to the parents, this is not Nigeria. We have to know that you can't make them do the things that you would have been able to make them do back home. So even the parents must be open. There are certain things here of their culture that's beautiful. You have to be willing to also change. And one thing about children is if you just come all out, you do this, you do that, and they're like, Mom, but why? You're like, because I said so. They're not going to do that. You don't do that here. But if you make them understand that life happens, choices are there for you to make, and then there are consequences. Whatever you do, they have consequences. And you allow them to make their decisions. This is good. This is better. If you do this, this could happen. And then just make it very open. And one thing again, I know that back home, we try to, we are very miserly with the truth. Here, you just have to be generous with it. Let them know, this is how it is. This is how it is. And age-appropriate information you give to them. So whether you are in Nigeria or in America, what is good is good. What is bad by moral standards, by just being human. So you don't come to them like, I'm your mother, I'm your father, so you have to do it this way. Let them know what is right to do. Let them make a decision.
For you listening, I hope this goes to every parent out there living in America or maybe in abroad to realize that what we are being taught from home doesn't be something we have to force on our kids. We should give them more room to, work with them and able to allow them to express who they are and how you can help them, not to enforce our way of life, thinking that should be the only way we should approach it. So I hope that has been a very wonderful information that you could get from what we're saying today to let you realize that, no matter how you see things, learn to be more open-minded to embrace what those kids are trying to say, because you might be giving them the traditional way, and in school they might be having something different entirely. And I think sometimes that affects a lot of kids because having to choose where they want to be on how they want to go is very confusing for them too. So if you're listening, I believe we've been able to trigger that part of you to realize there's something you need to have a conversation with. I want to go back to what you said earlier on, saying supporting system. I know for me, I've been able to be blessed by wonderful people around me. And when you said, if you don't have a support system, create one. What do you mean by saying create one? Do you mean by people creating, somebody that doesn't, I'll use myself as an example. Like, I don't really go out like that. I'm limited to a lot of things I do. But for me, my own case, I have a lot of people that I really relate with, that they would just bump on my door and say, hey, this guy, things like that. But what are the approach you think people can give to start if they can't get a support? Because I believe in abroad, you have to have it.
Yeah.
I don't care what you think you're doing. You need a supporting system. Supporting system doesn't have to be somebody that even you're married to. It might just be friends. It might just be a friend of friends that it can just randomly be able to impact your life or check on you, will change everything you're doing. So I would like to hear your own approach on how somebody can do that. For somebody that doesn't even know what to do, somebody that just moved to America that's still struggling of what to do, how to move, I would like to hear your opinion on how they can do it to change their way of life.
Okay. One of the easiest things to do, we are Nigerians. Most of us are very religious. So whether you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, there's always a gathering somewhere. Maybe your old school association, there's something. Go on Google, go on Facebook, you will find something, somewhere around that you could at least visit once in a while and see. And it's not very difficult for you to locate people that are like you. That's the way they just gravitate towards you. There's just a connect that just happens. That's one. Go to the mosque, go to church, go to gatherings where there are people, and just see one or two people that you could just start a conversation with. And yet, these days, everybody has access to the globe. I mean, this is a global village like never before. You have your IG handle, you have your Facebook handle. just begin to put some posts out there. Put some posts out there. Watch the reaction. And because this is something very passionate to you, you're going to be, keep doing it and keep doing it. And before you know it, you begin to attract some people. And if you can, maybe you sponsor your post to be that's your vicinity, that you're targeting. And then before you know it, some people are coming. They're coming. It might not even be a physical gathering, but you can be supporting each other remotely. And before you know it, something, can develop from there. And also, I believe in the higher power up there.
What do you mean? What do you mean by higher power up there?
I don't believe in the Big Bang theory. I don't believe in that. I believe that there's a maker who made everything, and I believe that he's up there. And when we pray, when we talk to him,
now it makes sense to me. When you said there's something up there, I didn't really get a fact of when you said something like that, but now it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes.
Thank you for that, though. And the only thing I just want to add to that for what you said is the fact of I like the fact that when you said you got to start from somewhere. If you're a religious person, try to start joining one. If you're a Muslim, go to the mosque. If you're a Christian, go to church. And if you are, however you feel you want to worship or what you think you can do that will change your life, be that first person that can start it in your own house. Start posting or try to join some group. There's a lot of, like she said, there's a lot of group online that you could join that I'm sure definitely that will change. Because for being in abroad, that a lot of people don't know, it's very, very vital to have something like that working for you. Because if you don't, the level of how we sustain our life in abroad will surely run you out of your senses that you won't even know. So thank you for bringing that part to us. My next question is going to be around what has been your experience living in abroad? Being a Nigerian.
Yeah, being a Nigerian. I think the first thing that really hit me is the DIY thing.
What do you mean?
You do it yourself. I mean.
Oh.
Back in Nigeria, I didn't even know how to do the eyebrow. As in, I didn't have to. I had people that would do it for me.
Oh, yeah. I kind of pick when you say you're working in World Bank, so I know the level of where you are. So, and that's one thing I was telling somebody. I said, I think it was my studio manager I was discussing with. I said, back in Nigeria, I'm an accountant, so I have people that I can tell to go do things for me.
Honestly.
And, coming down here, and I started to do some jobs that I found myself sitting with some people that I would never have imagined I would sit with. Not to disrespect them, but to I was yesterday's section that we're doing that. All to the where I was being, bullied out some kind of way. And that wasn't a good experience that I expect from somebody, which I was telling the person, I said, when I was watching a movie, I always think Americans are like this up area and we're right here. But, having to encounter some people, they've been a wonderful people for me anyway, but it's just that I realized that we're all the same. The same way we have some people back home that are still gullible about some things, we have them right here. So it took me a while to adjust to it, and that's why I asked you the question. So my next question is, I want you to tell us more about, because I know we discussed that before we come online, about your ministry. I want you to talk about your ministry so that our audience, our subscribers can know more about what God has been using you doing in abroad. So can you please paraphrase all those things for them to listen to you?
Okay, let me paraphrase everything.
Thank you.
My ministry is all about relationships. And these I treat at 3 basic levels.
Okay.
1 is with your maker.
All right.
2 is with yourself, and 3 is with other people.
You're gonna give us an answer to all those 3 questions after you tell us about your ministry. Yes.
Okay, so yes, healthy. I help you to build healthy relationships with your maker, or with yourself, and then with other people. Other people, your siblings, your parents, your cousins, your husband or wife, your children, and all of that. So these on the spiritual level, and also as it has to do with emotional and the physical part of it. So I do counseling. I'm particular about premarital counseling. I'm so excited, helping people to make the right choice, of a life partner. I have had quite a journey, and I've done a lot of research, and I haven't been doing this for about 20 years.
Wow.
Counseling, yeah. I used to pastor in Abuja at some point, but now I am in the field. So yes, doing this day in, day out, meeting people, hosting my talk show also. I host a talk show.
Wow.
Living Real.
All right. Living Real with Sarah. So if they are to follow you on Instagram or Facebook, what's it gonna be? Is they should just search Living.
On Instagram is The Living Real with Sarah.
Okay. On YouTube.
On YouTube, I have Living Real with Sarah channel,
right.
and my website is livingrealwithsarah.com.
All right, thank you very much for that. So I want to go back to the question you said, the 3 things you're dealing with. So for a Nigerian living here, what can we do in understanding? You said the relationship with God, relationship with yourself, and relationship with your,
with other people.
With other people. So, and I think that's the last 2 one I want to go into very, very well.
Okay.
And it's relationship with yourself and relationship with people. How has that been based on, which I know this might not be ethical, so I don't want you to talk about the experience, but do you think Nigerians are embracing and understanding that part being in America, or we're getting bad?
I think we're getting bad.
Whoa.
Yes, because many of us seem not to know who we are. Your identity. And that's why for me, I know you said you're dealing with the other 2, but I have to take it from the top.
Okay.
Because if you don't have a relationship with your maker, you cannot really know who you are. If I manufactured this thing, I have the manual. So I know what I put together. I know how that thing can function. So if you don't know what the manufacturer has in mind, you don't know yourself. So there's something about self-discovery, knowing who you are. So whether you're in Nigeria or in America, it would not change. The methods of doing things might change, but the principles will remain intact. The principles will remain intact wherever you find yourself. But many of us back home, I don't know, we didn't have, and I'm sorry to say this is not to attack anybody, but the religious things, it's almost like some people, when they get to the door to the church, they hang their brain, then they go in there, and then all those things, and then when they are coming back, they pick up the brains again. So they don't even have an identity.
Why do you say they drop the brain and they pick it up? Is it because of, I want to understand that tricky part about saying they drop the brain and they pick it up. Is it when they're going to church, they don't listen to what is being told in the church? Or they just, I think in abroad, Nigeria, people dress fly to go to church. In abroad, half of people dress. Some people wear office clothes to work and just from there go to the job. So when you said they drop their brain, can you elaborate a little bit on that part? Yeah,
what I'm saying is this. For example, it's in Africa that a pastor comes up there and says permit me to use the word, some jargon. And you just take it hook, line, and sinker because the pastor said so. And you don't even do like the Berean Christians who actually check, is this thing real? I mean, there was one pastor who was asking the congregation to eat grass.
Oh, yeah, that's the Nigerian people. I don't know, somewhere, I take that back. It's not Nigeria, but wherever it is, somewhere in Africa. I don't know.
Yes. A lot of things. There's some things that you will hear and you're like, if not that it was heard in church, people wouldn't have taken to it. They wouldn't have taken it like that, hook, line, and sinker. That's what I mean by they hang their brain by the door and then go in and taking all the nonsense. And so they don't really have that relationship with God. They don't have that relationship with the Word of God because the same Bible that we used in Nigeria is still here. So if you already have that identity, you know who you are, wherever you find yourself, you are the one that's happened to that place. So I came from Nigeria knowing who I am in God, and I came in here to happen to America. I put my, everything in here. Has it been easy? No. But is it impossible? Definitely not impossible. Because we're moving on. We're moving on. So you have to know who you are. And that some people just came from Nigeria not knowing who they are, and then they just got here. They're trying to become who they are. Even those that they even came to meet don't even really know some things. So there's a lot of confusion going on. And they're just trying to just feel among. They're just trying to feel among. So I tell people you need to know who you are. Your identity is very, very important. So that wherever you get to. And then when you know yourself, when you have a good relationship with yourself, it's going to be easier for you to relate with other people. Until then, you will have problems with people. I met you the first time, and look, even on phone, look at how,
That's true.
But you know who you are. I know who I was. So even our conversation ended up, being very productive.
Yep.
But imagine if I didn't know, and when you said, "Oh, are you sure?" I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
It could have been anything.
It's still funny today that we met though, because the call wasn't supposed to be for me.
No.
And yeah, you're right. I think, and that's I just want to buttress, and that's part of being real, because that's one thing I'm an advocate of that to a lot of people around me. Like I tell people, like, please, if you can be real, you will see a lot of things that you will benefit your life that you just don't know.
Right.
And I think we're just scared about being real because a lot of us are not being born to understand what realness is from Nigeria. We're raised in a country where everybody's struggling just to survive. So there's no time to really sit down and be real. And like I always tell people that have been real back home only get real out of the pain they are going through. And people that have been able to make money or being a celebrity back home only becomes that because of whatever they are going through in their life. And I was still watching this particular celebrity in Nigeria that said he was into high tech. I won't mention the name. And from high tech, he decided he wants to start going to music. And the partner who was into high tech was saying, whatever you're going to go to in that music is all, if you lose, don't come back. And today is one of all this biggest name in Nigeria that is really, really doing fine. And they were saying, like, they're telling the story, and like people should realize that sometimes you got to believe in what you really, really, and it's just being real to yourself. So Well, I appreciate that. The last part is the family part, because you've touched God, you've touched the person. So the family part, I want to know.
Okay, can I say one thing before I go into the family thing?
Most definitely.
Yeah, people don't know how strong they are until being strong is the only option they are left with. At times you find yourself in between the hard place and the rock. The rock and the hard place. And then that pressure brings out something in you. We are full of treasures inside of us, but many of us don't even know. So wherever you are in Nigeria or in America or wherever you are, you have what it takes to survive there. And that's part of what I teach.
That will go over some people here in Nigeria. Like, you have somewhere to save to enjoy. They will say, no, let me come to America first. And then you can tell me maybe I can survive here. But which you're right, because we've seen people here sometimes, like, you're like, Jesus Christ, like. And I think a lot of people doesn't understand, like you said, being real to themselves, I've sabotaged a lot of things they can become in their own life too. Because they're still subjected to the fact that I'm scared to do this, so I don't want to try this. And that has been a kind of a drawback for them. But I'm listening to you. I want you to finish that part you're touching on.
Yeah, so that's it. You come to America and people are making money because, as nurses. And then the next thing you're going to study nursing. I don't want to be a nurse. That's not who I am. Whatever it is that is in you, there is a path. And if there was none, be the pathfinder. And I found out that America is the system works here.
Yep. Most definitely.
Whatever you want to do. Like I do listening sessions. I'd never heard it from anywhere. But in my time of meditation and all of that, it came to me. People need to talk. Yes, I do counseling, but at times people book sessions with me just to talk. And all I do is actively listen.
Wow.
And they are done, they're like, thank you. Thank you. I'm telling you. And all the pandemic and post-pandemic, just on Zoom. I just sit down there and we are watching ourselves on the screen and you are talking. And they just speak. They speak their sorrow out. They speak everything, and they are lighting. So there are many things that you would never have thought you could realize, or it could actually be impactful. But right here, anything can work. Anything at all can work. So you need to discover yourself and give yourself the permission to soar. Okay, let's not go.
No. I'm going with you with that flow. But yes, so the last thing I still wanted you to touch about is the family thing, because I think you haven't really touched about the relationship with family. How has that been experienced and people you've talked to? Like, how do you think Nigerian can manage that? And what would you like to say to people? That let me put it like this, because of our time. Can you just talk about, let you be an advocate for Nigerians that don't have the privilege to talk to their families, and for the families that don't have the privilege to understand what their relatives are going to in America. So be that voice to talk to both parties, and that's what I want to say.
Okay. Yes. I want to say to Nigerians back home, please. If there's one thing that you can do for your family members who are abroad, pray. Pray for them. It's a whole lot going on here. It's a whole lot. And then support them. You know what? Ask after them, not to ask for money. There's some people that will never call they will never call until they need money. Just, how are you doing? I hope everything is fine. And when they want to talk to you, listen. You know, many people just jump into conclusions. They just already have this, I don't know, this thing like America is just like heaven. People are going through a lot.
I thought about it too, if I can be. I always say America is my ever, but God bless America.
God bless America. And
America,
God bless
America,
Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria. God bless America. Thank you for that. And the last question I would like to ask you for today is, what is that one thing you would like to share that we didn't ask you, that you have the mind of trying to tell our audience? Is there anything else you think we missed? Or is there anything else you personally feel like, okay, you know what, this is a privilege for me to say this on this podium, on this podcast, on this channel that we didn't touch?
Okay, let me say this. Refuse to let other people's opinion of you move you to the point of doing what you would not ordinarily do. Refuse to let people who don't know what you're going through, people who have not walked a mile in your shoes, refuse to let them be the judge over your life. Raise up your head. Lift your head up. Own your truth. And be you. Yeah, be you.
I like that.
Be you. Choose
like
to
that.
be you.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. That's very short and very powerful. You know, you got to raise your head up. And this is CTD Among Blacks. It's been wonderful having Miss Bukola. And again, we call her Living with Sarah. And it's a privilege she's been able to share our personal experience, our views. And it's been a lovely one for whoever that's listening to us. And we really appreciate you for going with us from the beginning. Wherever you might be in the world, maybe it's morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, maybe you're at work, maybe you're sleeping, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're at anywhere you might find yourself that you've been able to follow us from the beginning of this particular episode to this last moment. We really appreciate you. And like we always say, I remain fresh, and you can call me Oyebanji Akins. But like I always say before we go out of our every section, everything you are doing right now might not make a lot of sense, but keep doing what you're doing and just believe in yourself. It's definitely going to make a lot of sense in the future. So thank you very much for having us, and it's a lovely one. Hope to see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.